Alright, what is going on? What's happening? How's everyone today? My name is Chuck. Welcome back to a brand new video. So today we're going to be jumping into my top SMG meta loadouts. I'm going to go through basically and break down all the best SMGs you guys can use here in Warzone. I'm going to give you guys, of course, the best possible loadout to use with it. Before any farther though, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a like in the next 5 seconds for some good luck and hit that subscribe button with all notifications turned on, because there's a lot of you guys out there right now that are watching this video that are not yet subscribed. Okay, so the first thing we have to jump into here is going to be the MAC-10. The MAC-10 is indeed going to be probably the #1 meta SMG you guys can use here in Warzone right now, so I definitely want to make sure I cover this thing. This is the cross multiply variant for any of you guys that are wondering what this is. This is in the store. You guys can go get that. First thing we have to jump into here is the muzzle category. What we're going to do is we're going to throw on the agency suppressor for that sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bullet velocity, and effective damage range. Overall, the agency is going to be, the choice for a lot of these different SMGs, just because they did that TTK nerf to a lot of the guns in Warzone. And so in order to combat that, we normally would be using the sound suppressor, but we kind of have to use the agency nowadays in order to be able to combat that TTK kind of decrease and to be able to make our guns kill a little bit faster. So that's why we're running the agency here on the MAC-10. And of course, it's going to help out with some, vertical recoil control, even though this thing really doesn't have all that much recoil, to be honest with you guys. It pretty much has almost like non-existent recoil, and especially this build that we're going to give you guys, it's going to have like none. Next up in the barrel section, what we're doing here is we're going to throw on that 5.9 task force barrel for that effective damage range, bullet velocity, and of course that strafe speed. Overall, absolutely love the task force barrel on this gun. I think it is by far the best barrel you guys could use. There's no real reason to go for anything else on this. Like, genuinely, you should not be going for any other barrels. This is just always going to be the best one here. It says vertical and horizontal recoil control is a negative. To be honest with you guys, the MAC-10 doesn't really have any recoil anyways, so you really don't have to worry about hardly anything regarding recoil control at all. So just throw on the task force. Now in the laser section, what we're going to do here is we're going to go down and throw on the Tiger Team Spotlight here for that increased movement speed and aim walking movement speed. This is what a lot of the pro players be using. I absolutely love the Tiger Team Spotlight on this gun, and this has been like a tried and true attachment for me here on my MAC-10 setup for quite a long time, just because it's so unbelievably good. And also it kind of can help you, pick out some people that are in those dark corners, which can be pretty useful. So go and throw on the Tiger Team Spotlight. And the ammunition side of things, what we're going to do here is we're going to throw on that Stenag 53 round drum for that increased ammo capacity. I have seen some other people try to run the Salvo 53 round fast mag, but to be honest with you guys, there's no real reason to run the fast mag on this thing. It reloads fast enough already at the base magazine, so there's no real reason you should ever consider running the fast mag, as that is just going to chalk your ADS speed too much, and that is not what we're trying to do at all. And that is not what we're trying to do at all. We're just trying to basically use the regular Stenag 53 round drum, get the maximum ammo while being able to, not lose as much ADS speed. Now in the stock section, what we're doing is we're going to throw on that Raider stock here for the ADS fire move speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time. Absolutely love the Raider stock on this gun. I think it is by far one of the best stocks you guys can possibly use. I have ran the SAS Combat in the no stock, and sometimes I'll switch between all three of these, so you guys realistically can't go wrong running this build by choosing any one of these stocks. It just kind of is up to some personal preference. Personally, I probably go for the no stock or the Raider stock over the SAS Combat, but my tried and true, what I always go with, no matter what, it's going to be the Raider stock. So that's why I'm going to tell you guys to use this attachment here. And overall, this is a banger build here for the MAC-10. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Probably the best SMG to use in Warzone right now. Okay, so next up here, what we're going to do is we're going to be checking out the Cold War MP5. The Modern Warfare MP5 actually recently got nerfed, so it's definitely not in meta anymore. So we're going to go and jump into this here. The first thing we have in here is the muzzle category. We're going to throw on that agency suppressor, that sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bullet velocity, and of course that effective damage range. Overall, I would suggest even to use the agency on this thing, not just because it's going to be better for that TTK, but because the Cold War MP5 does have a decent bit of recoil, and we're trying to mitigate that as much as possible. So that's why we're throwing the agency here, as that is going to really help out with our recoil control, as opposed to the sound suppressor that you could definitely try it out. You just have to ultra up this build here a decent bit. So for the purpose of the build, we're going to throw in the agency. We're skipping over the barrel section, going straight to the laser, because we're going to keep those beautiful variant iron sights, which are significantly more clear than the base iron sights. So we're going to throw in that Tiger Team Spotlight here in this category for that movement speed, aim walking movement speed. Of course, this does the same thing as it would for the MAC-10. It's just really good to keep us agile and mobile in those close quarter situations. So that's why we're putting this thing on. And the ammunition side of things, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on that Stenag 50 round drum magazine. This is going to give us the maximum ammo capacity possible, and it's also not going to mess with our ADS time too much. It's kind of similar to the MAC-10 like we did with, the Tiger Team, but with this thing here, they have, the 53 round drum for the Mac. We have the 15 round drum for this thing, and then the fast mag, you can use it for sure. Like, you can definitely do that, but I personally don't find it to be nearly as worth. So I'm just going to go with the regular 50 round drum, call it a day. But if you feel like you really need to reload a lot faster, go with the 50 round fast mag and you'll be okay. But to be honest, I'm just going to say use the 50 round drum. Now the rear grip section, what we're doing here is we're going to throw on that serpent grip for that ADS time. This is going to hinder our sprint to fire time, but don't worry, we're going to fix that here in just a second. I think this thing definitely can benefit from some increased ADS, as this has a pretty fast time to kill. So if we can, you know, basically use our time to kill in ADS faster, that's gonna allow us to get more shots on target. AK is gonna allow us to be more lethal, so you really can't complain with that. And to finish off this build here, we have that Raider stock attachment for the ADS fire move speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time. Absolutely love this attachment here on the Cold War MP5. Been running this for a long time. This is just a basic thing for me to do. I always throw this on here. I don't even mess the stocks on this thing like I would the Mac 10. I always just run the Raider. I don't mess the combat or the no stock. It's just always a Raider stock attachment for me on this thing. The Cold War MP5 is a really solid SMG you guys should be using here in Warzone. If you haven't already leveled this thing up, definitely should be doing so. Now we need to jump into everybody's favorite SMG. Personally, one of my favorites to use here in Warzone besides the Mac 10, that is going to be the Bullfrog. Absolutely the Bullfrog. So let's jump into this here. First thing we got on here is that Groove Suppressor. You guys already know the drill. Sound suppression, vertical recoil, control, blow velocity, effective damage range. Of course, this is basically the agency suppressor, but for this gun in particular. So you guys should just be running this here. You can definitely try and run the sound suppressor. I've been doing that a little bit more recently with the Bullfrog, just trying out new things, trying to figure out what I could possibly do. So realistically, the sound or the grooves can work pretty good, but you're gonna have a little bit better luck here running the groove. It's gonna be more consistent at all ranges, which is definitely something we're looking for here. So that groove suppressor is gonna be my pick. In the barrel section, we're gonna run that 7.4 task force barrel, effective damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed. This says it's going to give us that vertical and horizontal recoil control as a con, but to be honest, I mean, we've all looked at the Bullfrog. We've seen plenty of gameplay with the Bullfrog, and this thing has no recoil. Like a lot of the SMGs, a lot of the guns in this game don't have much recoil to begin with. So when it says it's going to give us some recoil, it is negligible. Like you really don't even see it. So just throw this on there. In the laser section, we're going to go throw on that Tiger Team Spotlight, much like we have the other SMGs. Increased movement speed, aim walking movement speed. The more agile we can be in close quarter situations, the better we're going to be when it comes to dodging bullets, you know, ducking around, weaving around, and just being overall, you know, able to move around when we're not trying to get shot at. So you guys should definitely just run the Tiger Team Spotlight. This is going to be fantastic. In the rear grip section, what we're going to do here is we're going to throw on that Serpent Wrap for the increased ADS time. We don't have to go for a magazine or anything on this gun because this has at least 50 plus rounds stock, which is incredible. So that it's not like it's got 30 rounds or something like that where we have to throw on an extended magazine. We don't have to do that at all. It's almost like we have 6 attachments when we only have 5. So that's why we're going to use that attachment slot for the Serpent Wrap to increase our ADS time. And last but not least, we're going to go throw on that KGB skeletal stock, ADS fire move speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time. It's a classic attachment here on my Bullfrog. This is my favorite build by far with this thing. Absolutely love using the Bullfrog. Probably my go-to SMG besides the Mac 10. You guys should definitely be using this thing if you have not already. Now let's jump into a gun here that is just more recently been added to the game, aka the CX9. This is a pretty solid SMG. It doesn't have as much mobility as the Mac 10, but it still has a very good time to kill. So you guys should definitely be using this here in Warzone. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to go to the barrel section and we're going to go throw on the very last thing, which is the integrated suppressor here along with the barrel for the damage range, recoil control, bullet velocity, and sound suppression. It doesn't give us like the same type of thing as if we were to throw on the mono and then throw on a barrel, but we're trying to kind of combine this here, and this is going to allow us to have a barrel while also getting a suppressor, which is never a bad thing at all. So you guys should definitely be rocking this. Now in the laser section, this is a little bit more personal preference here because the CX9 can have a little bit of a slower ADS time. I've gone ahead and ran the TAC laser a few times on this thing, and it's been pretty good. Also, I've seen people run the 5MW laser for that hipfire accuracy and sprint to fire speed. So it's just kind of one of those things you have to kind of try out for yourself and feel, if you feel like, you know, this thing doesn't have as much, you know, sprint to fire time or doesn't have as good of an ADS time, you just kind of have to choose between the two. I wish, you know, you could combine all these into one here, or this thing just had a base, you know, quicker ADS time, but unfortunately doesn't. So for me, I'm just gonna go with the TAC laser just because I want to be able to ADS a little bit faster, and for me that works out pretty well. But I have tried the 5MW and it's pretty good as well, but for me the TAC laser is just what I like. In the ammunition side of things, we're gonna go through on the 50 round drum magazine for that increased ammo capacity. This is the maximum ammo capacity you can possibly get out of this thing, so I'd highly suggest doing so. Always stray away from these 9mm hollow point 12 rounds. Don't ever try to mess with these things. It's like the AS Val when it had that different magazine there. It was pretty cool for a while and it was like glitched out and you could shoot through walls and everything, but this is not the case with this thing at all. And also I don't really think it's beneficial for you to use at any point. So always go with the 50 round drum. This is going to be your best option. Now in the rear grip section, we're going to go throw on the CX-9 TAC grip. This is basically the stipple grip tape of this gun for the increased ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. Try to make this thing more agile, more mobile. Absolutely love the way this thing functions on this gun. This attachment is fantastic, and you guys should always run it. And now for the stock category, we have a few different options in here. I mean, but realistically, only thing we're going to go for here is a CX-FR. This is going to increase our movement speed and our ADS speed. This is like the no stock attachment of this gun, more or less. And so I would suggest for you guys to be able to go ahead and use this thing here. We're just trying to get maximum mobility. You'll have to control the recoil here ever so slightly with this build, but if you can control the recoil, you're gonna have a really, really mobile gun, and that's gonna be awesome because we have to compete with a lot of other Cold War SMGs here. As you notice, this is basically the only Modern Warfare SMG on here so far. That's because a lot of the other MW SMGs don't really compete. So just definitely go ahead and run this. Try out the CX-9. A really competitive gun and not something that I see enough people using. To finish off this video here, we're going to be using the PPSH here as our final gun. This is the loud pipe variant. It's going to be from one of the previous battle passes, so no, you can't go get this. I've had some comments about that, but let's actually jump in this here. Muzzle category, of course, that groove suppressor. Don't really have to explain this here too much. You guys already know what it is. This thing has a decent bit of recoil, so this groove suppressor is going to work out especially well for us, so I'd highly suggest using that. Moving over to that barrel section, what we're going to do here is throw on that 15.7 task force, that effective damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed. Of course, this will increase your recoil, but if you can control the recoil, you'll be entirely okay because the task force barrel on this thing is a must in my opinion. I think this is just so good with the task force barrel, but like I said, the drawback is that it has some recoil here. It's one of the few guns in Warzone that realistically has actual recoil. So I would just suggest run the task force and really try to work on your recoil control. In the laser section, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on that Tiger Team Spotlight, increased movement speed, aim walking movement speed, much like we did for the other Cold War SMGs. This is a staple attachment here for a lot of them just because it helps you be really, really agile. And you would not believe the amount of times having a Tiger Team Spotlight comes in clutch. So definitely throw on the Tiger Team Spotlight. It is well worth it. In the ammunition side of things, you have a few different options in here, but we're just going to go with the base 55 round drum magazine. I don't feel any need to throw on the Spetsnaz 71 round drum magazine. It's pretty cool when you find, like, you know, a PPSH ground loot and it has the 71 round drum. As you know, I think that's pretty cool, but it's never something I'd ever run on my class just because it slows you down a little bit too much, especially with the barrel combination and stuff we got going on. So we're just trying to only run the 55 round drum magazine. This is not going to impact our ADS time at all, and ADS time on SMGs is very, very crucial. And to finish off this build here in the stock category, we're going to go for the Raider stock, increase ADS fire move speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire time. Absolutely the Raider stock on this thing. You guys should definitely go ahead and give it a shot. This is my full PPSH build. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you have, make sure you guys give it a like, hit that subscribe button, turn all notifications on, and just remember, no triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.